Hello again, everybody. I'm Snapper Lancaster, welcoming you to another edition of the Central Alabama High School Sports Show. Well, folks, we've got a special show tonight. We've got a championship coach coming in with a couple of his athletes we'll be talking with in the first segment of the show. On the second part of the show, we've got a different kind of guest tonight. It's going to be Josh Bean of AL.com, who's the high school sports beat writer who has been one of the many writers that's been covered in high school sports this fall. Look forward to Josh talking about what should be taking place here as we're slowly but surely getting to the end of the football playoffs. And as always, we've got some teams from here in the Birmingham area that have chances to come away with championships. And so we look forward to talking with him about that and the road that led to some of these championships. We're going to be talking about the playoffs, but in the first segment of the show, we'll be talking with a coach that led his team to a championship run, a couple of their athletes, and we look forward to visiting with them. So don't you go away. We'll be right back with our first guest.
The community features a world-class resort and spa, the amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course, miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. No, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
You know that you're blessed. Give your taste a whole new spin. Bring your friends and come on in. Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven.
And folks, welcome back. In this segment, as we talked about, we're going to be visiting with a very successful cross-country track coach and just won another championship. And of course, we're talking about Lars Porter with the Homewood Patriots. And Lars, going into this conversation before we start talking about the teams and how many championships that you guys have won, because you've got a few on your resume, talk about how you got into this business, what led you to Homewood in particular, and how long have you been there?
Sure. So this is my fifth year. I grew up in the Birmingham area, attended a number of over-the-mountain schools, graduated from Vestavia, but had a few years where I was in the Homewood system. And I went to Birmingham Southern, ran at Birmingham Southern, was given a wonderful opportunity to stay on and coach at Birmingham Southern. So for about 6 years, I coached at the collegiate level. With a young family on the way, I stepped away from the college coaching side of things and missed it so much that I knew I had to coach at some level, and that led me to Homewood, and Coach Tom Messlinger kind of got me hooked back in.
Well, not only that, evidently he made a great choice, because we were talking off the air just a moment ago, and this is about 5, didn't you tell me, boys championships your girls have won?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Was this their first?
This is their first. First in school history and for cross country.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, this is beginning to be old hat for you. That's quite a run. And as we get into this conversation, talking about what then would be the major difference for people that don't really think that much about it, track in college, track in high school?
That's a great question. And I would say from a training standpoint, it would just be the number of miles run and the intensity of the sport. It becomes exponentially harder as you fight tooth and nail at the collegiate level for improvements that from the outside look like very minor improvements, but to the athletes that work tirelessly towards those, you're not talking about improving by a minute, but you're talking about a second. 10 seconds is a major improvement for a season and for a year. The fruits of the labor become harder and harder to earn, and with that comes exponentially more work in order to get there.
Well, I tell you what, going into this year and coming off of such a successful run with the guys, did you foresee this again? Talk about the makeup of this year's team. Did you think they had the potential to come back to back, you know?
This year was one of the most pleasant surprises we've had. So in my first year, I inherited a few athletes that were talented and that were leading a young group of freshman boys, so that we were able to, I don't mean to say ride their coattails, but enjoy their success for 4 years. So of last year's senior group that we graduated, we sent 4 of them to run in college, 1 at Auburn, 1 at Samford, 1 at Boston College, and 1 at Auburn University Montgomery.
Wow.
And so our big concern was this was going to be a little bit of a rebuilding year, having sent such a strong group on, and the younger guys just responded as if it was, they picked up the baton as if it was theirs to carry, and it was one of the most pleasant years to coach. Because
you know, that's exactly the term I was going to use. Was this a pleasant surprise?
Oh my gosh, it was a wonderful surprise. We had athletes that were running in the mid-17s that ran in the mid-16s, which makes them very competitive. We had athletes that were just barely all-state, meaning top 15, that finished, that had podium finishes. A senior that went from 16:45 inconsistently to 15:58, and he's looking at making his mark at running in college. So it was a wonderful year on the boys' side.
Well, and then that brings us to the girls'
Yes,
side.
sir.
So that's, did it surprise you that the girls did as well as they did, or have they slowly but surely been building their way to this type season?
A little bit of both. We've had girls who have established the culture, but I would say we haven't had the talent pool that we had this year. And our middle school program does a tremendous job of getting kids out there, having them excited, and allowing us to see what's coming down the pipeline. And we knew with this group of freshman girls that we had an unbelievable amount of talent.
Well, that was going to lead me to the next question. In all these years that you've been there at Homewood, have you seen the participation by both boys and girls increase in track? Because they can see from these youngsters, like you had 4 last year, they could go out and get that college scholarship as well, and it doesn't have to be football, basketball, or baseball.
Right. Yes, sir. I would say absolutely. It's cyclical, and we were the first to benefit from the efforts at the middle school of them just providing an atmosphere that kids wanted to be a part of it, because it was fun and it was affirming, and it was they do it the right way. And so we inherited a quality group of kids that we ended up finding success with, and now more kids want to be involved with it, because the question is, can we, with a group of freshman girls winning their first, can we turn that into 5? And if our boys have won 5, can we stretch it to 10? Mm-hmm. And that's always a challenge that we hear the younger kids excited about being a part of.
Well, now, I don't know about yourself. Me, I'm not as into the track setting as you have been, but would you say that track is probably one of the ultimate team sports that is very individualistic?
Absolutely, absolutely. You score your points individually, as I have said to some of my graduating athletes reflecting on their career, with unbelievable results. I never ran a step of it for them. I didn't call the play. All we did was give them a few of the tools and stand by their side as they went out and earned those accolades. And so it is very individualized, and it's a beautiful thing when it comes together, and they find success as a team.
Well, now I know too, this has got to bring pride to not only the school, but to have the track team bringing as much recognition as you guys get. And of course, all that does is just feed people that might want or wonder, maybe on the fence straddling, do I want to try track or not? Well, all of a sudden, there's rewards to be gotten there too, teamwork, but it's all that you want to put into it as an individual, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say our girls have won a couple, and the beautiful thing about track is there's a place for everybody. If you're not a distance runner, try sprints. If you're not a sprinter, try jumps. If you're not a jumper, if you're a big guy, let's try the throws, and everybody can find success.
Well, Coach, as we wind down on this segment, first of all, I'm tickled to death for the success you've had, because it takes a combination. The coaches have their job to do, the kids have theirs. It takes both. And the one thing that I would say, and that you're having to deal with, it never gets old, does it?
It doesn't, and we don't take a single one of them for granted. Enjoy them when they come.
You can't do that because you don't know where the next one's coming from, do you?
That's right.
Well,
Yes,
listen, once again, congratulations to you and your youngsters, and we look forward to more success down the road, okay?
Thank you for having us.
We're going to take a quick break. We come back, a couple of athletes that had great years in their championship run. We'll be right back.
And this will be your premium right here.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I combined home and auto with State Farm. Saved $760. Love this guy.
Okay, does it bother anybody else that the mime is talking? Freaky.
Bundle home and auto, and you could save $760.
That's 760 very good reasons to call Alan Gurdeau in Trussville today.
Land of Frost Premium is America's best-selling 1-pound deli pouch, now available in 12 delicious flavors, including new flavors of mesquite turkey and cotto salami. High school athletes across the country ask for Land of Frost by name. These great items are available at your local grocer, including Piggly Wiggly, Food Giant, Western supermarkets, and many more. Land of Frost also makes other varieties of lunch meats, including deli shaved bistro and sub sandwich kits. Land of Frost is a proud sponsor of youth sports as well.
At Andrew Sports Medicine, we partner with our patients, trying to help them overcome the obstacles that keep them from achieving their goals.
This practice aggressively pursues victory over injury, over pain, over limitation, over anything that's going to keep you from being the best you can be.
It starts with our non-surgical physicians who are trained in sports medicine and orthopedic injuries. We have specialists in sports medicine with shoulders, elbows, and knees. We have hip specialists that do only hip surgery, including arthroscopy, minimally invasive resurfacing, and total hip replacement if needed. We have joint replacement surgeons. We have spine surgeons. We have surgeons that specialize in foot and ankle surgery and in hand surgery. So just about all the specialties of orthopedics are covered at Andrew Sports Medicine.
What makes the great surgeons great is their volume of experience at making decisions, whether that's intraoperative decisions, post-operative decisions, pre-operative decisions, the decision to operate on somebody or not operate on them. And so our volume here breeds good decision making. That gives us an edge in terms of making decisions for our patients, which ultimately is a lot of times the difference between success and failure. The teams, the players, the parents have confidence in us because they know we're going to communicate with them, we're going to create a plan unique to that athlete or that person, and we're going to get them back to their thing as quickly and as safely as we can.
At Andrew Sports Medicine, our mission is to partner with our patients and to help them succeed and achieve victory. Whether you're a weekend warrior, a grandparent with a shoulder problem, or a professional athlete, you get the same care, the same high-level technology, the same aggressiveness that we would in a professional athlete, and we treat everyone the same way. None of us like to lose. We're all very competitive, and we're not going to lose against their illness or their injury.
The community features a world-class resort and spa, the amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course, miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. Now, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
And folks, welcome back. In this segment, we're going to be visiting with two young athletes that have been part of championship teams. As a matter of fact, we talked about, there's been 5 of them, but these youngsters haven't been in all 5. But they've been in a couple of them. And sitting closest to me, Lucas Lamb, who is a junior. Lucas, good to see you. And Alvin Finch, also, who is a junior. Alvin, good to see you. Now, going into this year, and we'll start with you, Lucas, going into this season, coming off of teams that have won, what, 5 in a row? And then did you think, well, we may not win this year, or we're going to be the first ones that haven't won it in a few years? What was the motivation that kept you and your teammates performing at a high level?
Well, I think we wanted to prove that we could do it without the graduating senior class from last year, because they had a lot of talent, and we wanted to prove that we can do it too, and want to keep this streak alive.
Yeah. Now, Alvin, one thing I wonder is when you guys are running, what is it that goes through your mind that keeps me going? Do you, and I don't know, I've gone to see a few cross-country meets, but I don't know if are y'all allowed to have headsets when you're competing? I didn't think so. I didn't want to say something dumb. So what do you think about? Do you think about your favorite song or the person in front of you? What are you thinking about when you're running?
Well, sometimes I get to this motion of I'm thinking that it hurts, so that gets me to think, what do I need to do to run faster?
Well, let me ask you this. Now, how long have you been competing in cross country?
Well, this was my second year, so 2 years so far.
Okay. Now, did you run and I guess compete against a lot of the teams that you competed against last year?
Yes, sir.
And did you have, when you competed against these teams, were there anybody that you knew or any player on their team that you said, I got to perform at this level because I want to make sure I go faster than they do? But is there anybody that you look forward to competing against?
Well, the people I look forward to competing against are mainly my own teammates, you know.
Yeah. That makes both of you better, doesn't it? Or all of you better.
Yes.
Well, what about you, Lucas? What goes through your mind? Because I know sometimes it's pain and agony running as fast as you can through those obstacle courses or different kind of courses you run in cross country. So sometimes you have to think, your mind has to drift away a little bit, just where you can sort of let the pain go away or the tiredness. How do you handle that?
Sometimes I do kind of zone out sometimes, but most of the time I'm focusing on who I need to catch and where I need to be in the race and to get a good time.
So it's semi all business really once that gun goes off. Well, let's get away from the talking about the cross country racing for a little bit and find out a little bit about you guys. Now, this is the first time I've ever met either one of you. Now, a lot of times we athletes, I don't care if we're football, basketball players or volleyball players or tracksters, sometimes we have superstitions we may have a hobby or something that nobody knows about that you really enjoy. For instance, Snapper, I like singing in the shower. Well, we think we're a 10 in the shower. That shower goes off and we're a 1, you know. Or maybe you write poetry, and I'm not saying you do. But give me something about yourself that might surprise me that you like to do to sort of relax and get away from the drudgery of lessons and running.
Well, I like to sometimes play guitar. I like to hang out with my teammates and other friends, but I listen to music a lot.
What's your favorite kind of music?
I listen to it all. I
really?
Don't really have
now, playing guitar, you got to like country a little bit, don't you?
It's not my favorite, but
yeah, you up tempo, right, with the guitar. Well, that's fine. Yeah, a guitar. Okay, Alvin, how about you? What would surprise me about you?
Well, to calm myself down, I usually do about the same thing: listen to music, or just be on my phone, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do something to just get us out of the moment a little bit. Now, let me ask you guys too, as you race during the season of cross country, do you do it hoping it's all going to culminate? Because it doesn't happen this way for everybody. That y'all have been successful enough that, you know, if you do the best you can, we're going to be in the championships when the season's over. Is that what you concentrate on? And one thing, let me ask you this too, because I've never asked this much about guys that run track and stuff like that. Team chemistry is an important thing. Now, if you guys get along, it's a whole lot, and gals, it's a whole lot better because you're going to be a better individual yourself and better teammates. Talk about the chemistry on this year's team. What was it like for you guys?
Well, we're a pretty close-knit group of guys. We like to joke around a lot, and we push each other, and we like to give Coach Porter and Coach D a hard time. So It's always fun.
Because you know sooner or later they're probably going to give y'all one, right? So you want to do it back. How about you, Alvin? Is there anything in particular that spurns you toward being the best you can be? Is it the idea that, hey, if we're good enough, we're going to be competing for another championship?
Yeah, it's like I think through what I do for my training. Like sometimes we do workouts and we have to think about how we're going to race as we run through our workouts, you know? Whether it's threshold even, or maybe like something we do 3 by a mile. I think about it, and if I run hard in that, then I know I can run hard on my race.
Yeah, when talking about that, you win a championship last year, and is this your second year to compete?
Yeah.
And so the second championship, did you think coming into this year that you and your teammates were going to be good to win it again?
I mean, at first it was just like us. We were kind of slow at first, but then as it got more into the season, I felt better, and I knew we could get up there and win.
Well, I tell you what, now, both of you being juniors, then you got the challenge of next year, and everybody's going to be chasing y'all because y'all seem to be the team to beat right now in 6A and cross country, and that's got to be a good feeling too as well, right? Well, listen, guys, as we wind this down, one of the questions I always enjoy asking young athletes, to this point in your life, who's been the most inspirational person or persons?
I have to say Coach Porter, of course, just getting up every day, him yelling at you, it's inspirational.
You know what? You got politician written all over you. That coach is sitting over there, and you know you just got a point or two, but I understand what you're saying. I tell you, because I talk about these coaches all the time. They do two things. They prepare you for the sports that you're competing in, but more important than that, they prepare you for life after high school. So with that thought in mind, how about you, Alvin?
People who inspire me and coaching is Coach Porter, Coach Johnson, and my teammates that I'm close with.
Well, I tell you what, that speaks awfully highly of you and your teammates and your coaches. And guys, once again, hey, 5 championships in a row. Next year, y'all will get to go for 6. Wish you all the luck in the world, okay? But congratulations, state champ. That makes y'all the big guys on campus, and the girls are the big girls right now, right? But listen, once again, congratulations and good luck next year, okay? Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, another guest. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
The community features a world-class resort and spa. The amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course. Miles of historic trails. And the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. Now, are we going to have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
And this will be your premium right here.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I combined home and auto with State Farm. Saved $760. Love this guy.
Okay, does it bother anybody else that the mime is talking? Freaky.
Bundle home and auto, and you could save $760.
That's 760 very good reasons to call Alan Gurdeau in Trussville today.
And folks, welcome back. In this segment, as we talked about earlier, we're going to be visiting with Josh Bean, the AL.com sports writer here in Birmingham, and with the Birmingham News. And Josh, first of all, good to see you.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
I know our paths have crossed a few times. I've run into you and Gary Eastwick at ball games and so forth. And the last few years, for 17 years, I did the play-by-play for Best Stadium.
Right.
This year, my grandson played at Gardendale, so that ended that. And so that's sort of what is going to lead us into our first segment. We're going to talk about high school football, in particular here in the Birmingham Jefferson County area, and in particular the playoff part of it. But before we get into that, one question I would like to ask you, because I've got my own opinions about this too. Going into this year, there were quite a few surprises. Some of our teams that have been expected to do better than they did, and we've had some surprise teams and some teams that's played really well that I didn't think were going to be that good.
Right.
And I'll share mine with you, but I'll start off like letting you talk in that direction. What about surprises that you saw this year?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones has to be Winona. They're still playing. Last year they came into the season with so many expectations. Quinnen Williams was an Alabama commitment, and you just felt like with him anchoring that defensive front that they were going to be really good, and they were good. But translate that to this year, he's graduated, he's at Alabama, and we just wonder how good could this Winona team be? Here they are still playing in the semifinals. I think that's been a little bit of a surprise, and we've seen over the mountain teams, certainly over the last decade, have a lot of success, but having Ramsey and Winona, two Birmingham City schools still playing the semifinals, that's a little bit new. That's been an interesting development to follow throughout the season.
Well, I tell you, another thing that surprised me, because I know this coach personally, and we had talked about it, and when he said it, I didn't believe it, that he wasn't going to have the teams he's had this year, and that was Jerry Hood at Clay Chalkman. He still had an outstanding receiver, but you lose too many of those pieces, and all of a sudden the team that we've expected to do well, just was getting beat by people you're not used to seeing them lose to.
Right, and Clay Chalkville, you're right. It was a little bit of a rebuilding year. You lose a receiver that goes to Alabama, you lose your quarterback that goes to Maryland. There's some rebuilding that has to be done. Nico Collins did have another really strong season, but we saw it in the 7-on-7 in the summer. Teams were trying to find a way to take Nico Collins away and make other people beat them. And he still had a great season, but they just weren't quite as dynamic offensively as they have been. And so, yeah, Clay Chalkville was a team that got in the playoffs. They were a contender in every game they played, but they weren't quite to that championship level that they've been the last couple of years.
And I tell you, another team that surprised the heck out of me, I knew they were going to be good. I didn't realize this good, and that was Hewitt-Trussville.
Yeah, Hewitt-Trussville was such an interesting team. Josh Floyd was hired a few years ago, came in with that hurry-up, no-huddle system, and they want to play 75, 80, 90 snaps a game, as many as they can. So they got in the playoffs those first couple of years, but didn't find a lot of success this year. The first time in school history to go 10-0. I couldn't believe that. I went back and looked. I was sure that Jack Wood went 10-0 at some point in those great teams he had in the 80s and the early 90s. But, the Huskies were able to do that for the first time in school history. And then, made a little bit of noise in the playoffs this year. I know that's a team that wishes they were still playing. Right. With the success that they had in the regular season, they expected to still be playing here in the semifinals. But I don't think that doesn't take away from the amazing season that they had. And they scored 78 points in a game, and they won 10 games. It really was an amazing season for Hewitt-Trussville.
Yeah, I know. I live in Trussville, so I saw them from afar. Got to see a couple of games this year. And I kept waiting for them to lose one. But it seemed like they were, I don't care who they played, no matter how many points the other team scored, they outscored them. And by the end of the year, I was a believer. I said, the championship team that's going to play from the northern part of the state is going to be between Hoover and Hewitt, because they're in that northern region.
Right.
But then sure enough, they get derailed on the way. So to me, that was one of the biggest surprises.
Yeah, and it's got to be frustrating. When you get in the playoffs, there's such a small margin of error for all these teams. They're all very good teams. So they played a very hot Gadsden City team. It scores at the end. You lose by 1 point. But Gadsden City did, sort of the template to beat Hewitt-Trussville was you had to keep the ball away from them. And I think that they kept the ball enough that night. I think Hewitt-Trussville only got about 50 snaps. They want to snap it 80 times. That's a big advantage if you're Gadsden City, and it paid off. They were able to score at the end and win the ball game.
Well, and I know going into the playoffs, and we'll talk about that a little bit, going into the playoffs last year, this deep into the playoffs, matter of fact, in the finals, we had 4 teams from the Birmingham area that could have won titles, and only one did. Now, Having said that, of course, we know one team that's going to be in the finals, and that's Hoover.
That's right.
Now, looking at the 6A, Ramsey against Austin, how do you see that ball game?
You know, Ramsey's such an interesting team. You know, they've been very explosive offensively all season long, and I think the question for Ramsey has been, okay, how good will that defense be? Can they start making some plays? They struggled in that first loss when they lost to Grayson, but look, Grayson, Georgia is considered one of the top 10 teams in the country. They also had a very good game against Hoover. So we've seen that defense get better and better, and last week they held Minor to 20.
Right.
And Minor was a team, you know, they were scoring 50 points a game. No one had really been able to slow them down all year long. I mean, even in the one loss that Minor had previously against Spain Park, they had rolled up a lot of yards. So to hold Minor to 20, I think that says a lot about the improvement of that defense. Austin is a team that has run the ball really well all year long. So this will be, of course, you get in the semifinals, this is a test for everybody. But that Ramsey team, they're so explosive offensively. They got a 3-year starter at quarterback. That's a great place to be when you're going this deep in the playoffs.
Who's going to win the Winona-Briarwood game?
You know, that's a great game. Winona last week in the quarterfinals, you know, they beat Scottsboro, an undefeated Scottsboro team. That was really, they didn't just beat them, they scored 49 in the game. So that was really impressive. Briarwood, on the other hand, won a 15-0 game. Right. So I think this is a game where, you know, the defense that plays the best, Briarwood has shown an ability to slow almost everybody they've played down. So I like Briarwood. It's because when you get to this part of the season, it gets a little colder, the margin of error is smaller. I think being able to hang your hat on defense is probably what you want to do at this time of the year. But look, there's a bunch of teams that have scored a lot of points, and Winona's played better and better as the year's gone along.
Well, finally, the big class, 7A, and they'll start off the playoffs a week from, next Wednesday.
Right.
And so Hoover and McGill-Tulane. Hoover has got those 2 losses, out-of-state powerhouses. So far, they can't be beaten in the state. What do you see in the finals there?
I think this is the game that everybody wanted to see. You know, McGill's a defending champ, but I think there was an element of, hey, for McGill, they won it last year, but there was an element of they didn't beat Hoover to do it. And in Hoover's case, they were trying to get back to the Super 7 after not getting there last year. So I think this is a game we all wanted to see. That McGill offense against that Hoover defense should be a classic ball game.
So outstanding high school football games ahead with the semifinals and the finals just a week away. All of them will be playing in the finals. Next week we got semifinals for the other classifications.
That's
this
right.
Friday night. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to change the script, go talking about some other sports, primarily basketball, boys and girls, and maybe a little wrestling and track. We'll be right back.
You know that you're blessed. Give your taste a whole new spin. Bring your friends and come on in. Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven.
The community features a world-class resort and spa. The amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course. Miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. No, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
Folks, I want to tell you about, once again, a new sponsor that we have on our program, and we're awfully glad. We've been affiliated with them on and off, and we've got them back on with us, and we're talking about Andrews Sports Medicine. They're the world-renowned sports medicine physicians and orthopedic surgeons there at Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. They bring decades of experience and dedicated research in their respective fields. They are highly trained orthopedic specialists providing the most advanced sports medicine available in the United States. This group is well known for being the official sports medicine providers for the Alabama Crimson Tide, Auburn Tigers, Jacksonville State Gamecocks, Sanford Bulldogs, and dozens of high school programs in the central Alabama area. However, they are also available to provide folks such as us, you and me, who have an athletic mindset, the experts that is, but also the real experts at Andrews Sports Medicine aggressively pursue victory over every injury. Go to andrewsportsmedicine.com to start making your comeback today. Land of Frost Premium is America's best-selling 1-pound deli pouch, now available in 12 delicious flavors, including new flavors of mesquite turkey and cotto salami. High school athletes across the country ask for Land of Frost by name. These great items are available at your local grocer, including Piggly Wiggly, Food Giant, Western supermarkets, and many more. Land of Frost also makes other varieties of lunch meats, including deli shaved bistro and sub sandwich kits. Land of Frost is a proud sponsor of youth sports as well. And folks, we're back, and I remind you of this in this segment with Josh Bean, AL.com, that covers a lot of high school sports, and we're glad to be talking with him because it's playoff time in one sport, but now the 3 sports we're going to talk about just a little bit: basketball, both boys and girls, wrestling, and indoor track. And so, first of all, I guess we'll start it off with Class 7A in basketball. The teams that I expect to do the most, you tell me if it looks like that scenery is changing a little bit, but boys-wise, Mountain Brook, Oak Mountain, and Spain Park.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mountain Brook is clearly the team that everybody's looking to. Trenton Watford, their sophomore, he's 6'7.5", 6'8" guard. He's what I've told people is I think he's the best prospect in Alabama since DeMarcus Cousins. And he's such a fantastic player. He's so dynamic with the ball. He's a big guy, so he can score inside and outside. And the way they play, Bucky McMillan is such a good coach, but they play their style. They're going to play. They're going to press you. They're going to pressure you. They're going to make you play their game. And then you add the element of having this fantastic player in the mix. I think they're definitely the team to beat. Now, you brought up Spain Park, and they've got to weather losing Austin Wiley. Right. I mean, Austin Wiley, the 6'11" center, decided to go play prep school ball in Florida this year. And so, of course, we knew he was going to graduate eventually. We just don't have him in our area 1 year early. And so Jamal Johnson is still there as their point guard. He's a dynamic player. So they'll have to play a little differently this year. But look, they're talented. They understand what they have to do to win. I still expect them to be really good.
How about in Class 6A, where you look for Homewood, Woodlawn, Huffman, maybe?
Yeah, Huffman and Homewood were both teams that had a lot of success last year, and a lot of those guys are back. Homewood's best 2 players are back, including Trey Jemison, the 6'9" center. And so, look, let's be honest, when you got a 6'9" guy that you can put in the lane and guard the rim, that's a huge advantage for you. So I like them a lot, and Homewood's such an interesting program because their boys and their girls program have been so good the last few years, and you expect both of them to be very successful again.
Right, and as we go into 5A, Helena is one that had a pretty good year last year. I don't know what to expect out of them.
They did. I think that's probably a program. I think there's probably 2 in Shelby County, Helena, and then I think Pelham. I think those are two programs that feel like they've got a chance to make some noise at some point this year.
Alex Reese there at Pelham.
Alex Reese at Pelham. He's committed to Alabama. 6'9" swing man, so he can play inside, outside. He's a very talented player. I think in January last year, he had a couple of 40-point nights, and when he shows up and really decides to play, there aren't very many people in Alabama that can handle him. So you have to try to game plan for him. That opens up some opportunities for others. I think they're an interesting thing. I think Helena's an interesting team too.
All right, girls, very quickly, Hoover and Thompson in 7A. Do you see maybe they may have the class, or is there somebody we don't know about?
Yeah, those 2 teams are both, I think, should be really good. We have high expectations for both of them. Thompson with a new coach, but it's a coach coming from Homewood who has had a lot of success. You would expect that to continue.
Well, in 6A, you've got Homewood with a new coach, and Huffman probably expected to have a pretty good team lady-wise this year.
Right. Kevin Tubbs takes over as the girls' coach at Homewood, but he's got a lot of experience. The AD there as well. So, look, I don't expect them to miss a beat. Hanna-Barbera, their junior point guard, already committed to Alabama. They've got a very deep roster, so they've got the players to win it again. Last year they got derailed a little bit against that LaFleur team, but I think when we start looking way ahead to February, we start thinking maybe they end up playing each other again.
Well, in 5A, do we know how to say Winona?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that program just keeps winning in girls basketball. They got a bunch of players back again this year. We hope, Coach is battling cancer, and so we hope that those treatments are going well. But look, that's a team, that's a proud program that knows how to win. They got a lot of players that have won a lot of games already.
Well, now let's shift to wrestling very quickly. In 7A, for instance, I want to talk about two teams primarily. One that lost a Hall of Fame coach, Stephen Gaydosh, and picked up T. Adams, who was at Hewitt-Trussville.
Right.
And then the other team to watch is also Wilson out at Thompson.
Yeah, that Thompson program, they just when you look at wrestling programs in our state in the largest classification, they're the gold standard. They're like the Hoover football of wrestling. Yeah. And so everybody's shooting to try to knock them off, and we expect them, even when they lose wrestlers, we expect, they have a great training program. They understand how to rebuild their team, so we expect them to be at the top every year. And Vestavia, always a competitive program. As you said, new coach, new era there, but I think the expectations are still really high.
And very quickly, we'll talk about the indoor track a little bit. In Class 7A, you expect Hoover to be strong again?
Yeah, Hoover, particularly with their sprint program, is always at the top there. We're fortunate here in the Birmingham area, in Alabama, but particularly in the Birmingham area, to have the crossplex available for teams. It's such a fantastic indoor track facility. So that's where the state championships are, but athletes are competing there throughout the season. So I think that's very helpful to them. And I think Homewood, again, and because of their distance program, that we saw how well they performed at the state cross country meet. I would expect that'll be they'll perform really well in indoor track as well.
And in the girls, you feel like Hoover.
Yeah, again, Hoover has such their track program is able to have distance and such strong sprints that, I think that there's no reason, there's a reason that Mountain Brook and Hoover are near the top in girls track every year. They understand how to reload. They have a lot of talent, and they do well in lots of different disciplines. So they'll be interesting. There's some other teams like McGill-Tulane from Mobile who's always very strong. So we'll see how all that works out. But indoor track leads into outdoor track. You usually have the same teams competing for those championships.
Well, I tell you what, if you're like me with the football playoffs coming and culminating next week, we'll have the playoffs in the other divisions. It's Friday night, but next Wednesday night through Saturday, we'll be crowning champions in all of them. And you never can tell. We got a chance to bring home some crowns here in football this year, but we also got a chance maybe to be shut out.
Right, and Hoover and that Hoover McGill game, I think that's the first one, but I think that's the game we're all looking towards. That's the game that, if you're a fan of high school football in our state, that's the game you wanted to see. It'll be Wednesday night, prime time, no other games that day. I think that'll be fantastic.
Well, I tell you what, Josh, and of course these two segments have gone by very quickly. I appreciate you coming by. I tell you what, we may have to do this at the end of the spring, which will round out the school year, and then we'll talk about the champions in the winter segment and the spring segment. But once again, awfully good to have you, and you do a fantastic job at AL.com, and enjoy reading you and picking up your opinions on things. So look forward to seeing you again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys inviting me. Wonderful to be here.
And folks, you know what the snapper always says, till I see you again. Bicycle.